You know what?
What was it?
I know what it is now. I give a rip about what people think about me.
You do give a rip, don't you? But don't you think that's it? So let's just be specific just for a moment. What were you thinking? What were you thinking? Now, this is interesting because earlier we were bouncing people out of the chair for wanting to talk about things that are out of the vortex. But it was because it was not in sync with where we were. Now, at the time. Now, what we're clarifying right now is a conversation that we just had where she's wanting to feel her emotions and wanting to know what her guidance is actually telling her. So we pointed out that her emotions are letting her know when she's thinking a thought that agrees with her inner being and when she's thinking a thought that doesn't. When she's thinking a thought that will allow her vortex to take her in and when she's thinking a thought that will prevent her vortex from being able to take her in. So you said, I feel nervous. A lot of people feel that way. A lot of people say that at that point, but it's a good thing sometimes to say, what was the contradictory thought that I was just thinking? What was it? Let's just say it.
This is really good because this is exactly what I wanted to talk about, which is sometimes I think I'm thinking negative thoughts and I don't even know what they are.
But it's not hard to figure this out.
Okay.
And the more you figure it out, the easier it is next time. In other words, there is something to be said for, let's not figure it out, let's just get into the vortex. But this is it came at such a perfect moment in this juncture of co-creative experience. In other words, the reason that you lighted up is because you were the next logical step in the discussion of clarification.
Right.
This is co-creating at its best. So you sat right down and you fit right in and you said, I am feeling an emotion that lets me know that the thought that I'm thinking is not in agreement with what my inner being knows. Now, you didn't say it exactly that way, but that's what was going on.
Right.
So just try to guess a little. Maybe I think I'm not really up to speed. What do you think it might be? What could possibly make you feel uncomfortable about sitting here? The fact that we throw people out?
If you had asked me if I came up here first in the morning, I had lots of questions that were like very logical and reasonable, and now they've all been answered practically. And you call me up here now, and so I'm like, okay, what am I going to ask, or what am I going to really talk about? Because
why did you raise your hand?
I want to talk about the movie from last year.
But why did you raise your hand?
I raised my hand because...
You raised your hand because your inner being inspired you to get in on this conversation right here. You raised your hand because it was an inspiration. And then as you're walking up, you're sort of scrambling around, what is it I'm going to talk about? What is it I'm going to talk about? What is it I'm going to talk about? And when you sat down, you were nervous because you didn't really know why you were here, but you're here.
Yes.
You're here to continue the discussion. So now when you feel nervous, what's the logical thing to do? So you could leave the chair, you could have refused to come forward when we called you. There are a lot of different options, but now you're in the chair. Are you still feeling nervous?
Not nearly as much so, no.
So let's move it completely out of nervousness by just talking generally that every discussion that we have ever had with everyone in an environment like this has been productive and valuable, not just to someone, but to a lot of someones. Mm-hmm. Because for you to light up, it means that you are a vibrational match to a lot of things that are going on. The vortex is already spinning. This gathering was already created before you dragged your physical bodies here. And so the understanding of what the best way of unfolding, it was already in place. And then cooperative components are just lighting up all over the room in order to fulfill this, you see.
Right.
So what you say to yourself is, I'm a cooperative component to the greater cause of taking thought beyond that which it has been before. There has never been a combination like this before. Mm. So here you are. What do you want to talk about?
A year ago when I was in the hot seat, we were talking about my movie idea, and I basically wanted to talk about that.
Now the question that we have for you, in light of the entire day that has unfolded here, we are, remember the conversation just before you sat down. Mm-hmm. Your inner being is in the vortex and willing to discuss and participate with you on anything about what you want that's inside the vortex. So let's take that conversation to that level. In other words, if you want to talk about the movie, we're excited to talk about the movie. If you want to talk about what's slowing it down, that's outside the vortex.
Right.
So let's have an inside the vortex conversation about it. Yes?
Yes. And that's the tricky part. That's
well, if
the
it's
challenge.
tricky, then this isn't the time for the conversation. This is a thing that we really want you. In other words, if you've got something that you want to talk about and you can't find, and the thoughts aren't streaming from inside the vortex, then leave the subject alone.
Okay.
It's not the right time. That is the predominant message that has erupted from this gathering. It's not the right time. Later, Gator. If it's flowing and it feels good, then rampage on it and talk about it. If it's not, then find a subject that does, or just take a break.
Right. So why did you call me up here then?
Because we wanted to have the conversation about feeling nervous.
Okay.
Because it fit in so perfectly with what we had just been talking about. And because everything about what you are talking about fits in with everything that we are talking about. In other words, words don't teach.
Right.
It is life experience that teaches. And so there is nothing better than real life experience about this, you see. We have spent many, many years talking with many, many people who are outside the vortex in a willingness to bring them in. And sometimes if the crowd is patient and willing to go along, and if the subject is particularly interesting, we are able to focus from our perspective of inside the vortex long enough to bring them in, and it's always a triumphant experience. But these days we're wanting to demonstrate for you that it is your work to get into the vortex. In other words, it is not our work to stand on our head to bring you into the vortex. It is your work to bring you into the vortex. And we really do more of a disservice than a service when we do stand on our heads in order to bring you into the vortex. Now, having said that, your inner being, which we represent, is in the vortex and is never not aware of you, and is never ceases to stream the vibration. We're just asking you to match the stream, match the stream, match the stream. And when you match it, isn't the conversation blissful? And when you don't match it, it isn't, you see.
Right.
So, later, Gator. Really
Later,
good.
Gator.
Really good.
Okay, thanks.
Really good.